Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company on the 440 Sports Network on a Hot Take Friday. How is everybody? Presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical on the program today. Of course, we are on YouTube at Stillman & Co. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Again, share whatever you want, so on and so forth. And again, it feels like the Titans, they just have people bummed out. Not as many people watching Titans content nowadays. And I get it. Hey, I get it. Especially this show, which tells people, tells you all, tells whomever the truth. Now, we have an absolutely loaded program today. Here on this Hot Take Friday, we're going to start off with the Titans and the Seahawks game on Sunday, which I'm still undecided as to whether or not I'm going to go. There's a part of me that says, go and push back post-game live because I want to see the Sam Darnold play quarterback for Seattle. There's a part of me that's like, you know what? Let's just get right on here and let's just go after the game like we always seem to go after the game. So I'll make a decision on that at some point here in the week as to whether or not I'm actually going to go to the game or not. But for right now, let's talk about the game. And this is Cam versus Sam this week. Of course, many of you that follow this program know for a fact that we spent time and time debating Cam Ward, debating whether or not the Titans should draft Cam Ward, debating whether or not the Titans should trade for picks, debating whether or not the Titans should go into the veteran free agent market. We had talks about Matthew Stafford. We had talks about Derek Carr. We had talks about Daniel Jones. We had talks about Mac Jones. We had talks about Jameis Winston. We had talks about Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. But of course, the top quarterback in the veteran quarterback market was one Sam Darnold. And I put up a poll this week, knowing that it was Cam versus Sam this week. And I ran a poll and I said, who is the better quarterback and who's going to be the better quarterback over the next 4 years? Because Sam Darnold signed a 4-year contract in Seattle. And because Cam Ward has a 4-year contract and the Titans can pick up the 5th-year option after the 3rd year to make it a 5-year deal. But who's going to be better in 4 years? And 60% of you say Cam Ward, which I think is kind of crazy because Sam Darnold is clearly better this year. And I have to believe that most people, again, if we're being honest, if we're not doing the distinguished gentleman thing where we're doing the fool's gold, you'll see in the playoffs, whereas the Titans are essentially mathematically eliminated from the playoffs already. That's fine, but I expect Sam to be better next year. And in 4 years, it'll be Sam's age 30 season. And I have to ask, when Sam Darnold's 30 years old in 4 years, do you really expect Cam Ward to pass Sam Darnold? I'm not saying it's impossible, but based off of what we've seen, how could you say it's probable? And we've already talked about what Nick Suss reported in the Tennessean here this week on the program, basically saying that the Titans did not feel like paying $40 million for Sam Darnold would pay off. The coaches had interest in the veteran quarterback market, but according to Nick Suss at the Tennessean, the front office never loved the idea. Even if signing Darnold meant trading the number 1 pick in exchange for a massive haul of draft picks, there wasn't the belief that the roster would be strong enough to seriously contend within the first 2 cheaper years of Darnold's contract. The strategy of signing a win-now quarterback to a roster that wouldn't be ready to compete felt tantamount to signing up for roughly 7 wins a year and then going back into the quarterback market in 2 or 3 years. Which, again, the way Cam Ward has played so far this year, I'd have to say there's kind of feels like you may end up back in the quarterback market in 2 or 3 years anyways, but that's neither here nor there. So I think about what Nick Suss wrote about how the front office basically said, well, we would only win 7 games anyways if we had Sam Darnold. And I get that. And I'm shocked at how many people just roll with that line of thinking. That, yeah, okay, if we had signed Sam Darnold, who right now, by pretty much every metric, is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year, if we had signed Sam Darnold, we'd only win 7 games. And this roster's so bad that who cares about winning 7 games? And the assumption is you'd win 7 games, and you wouldn't win more than that. You wouldn't win 9 games and have a shot at the playoffs, or you wouldn't win 10 games, or you wouldn't win 8 games this year with a chance to improve your roster with the picks you got for Cam Ward and then win 10 games the next year. It's just an assumption. It's just they wouldn't. And so many of you people think like that. Easton Freeze, A to Z Sports, put it up there right when I said, I think it's ridiculous for the front office to just shrug off 7 wins and say, oh, well, our team sucks. We would have won 7 games anyways. Who cares? I mean, what are we doing here? And Easton Freeze said the Titans front office was right, to which I had to ask Easton. I had to say, so you mean to tell me that you think that the Titans front office was right, that over the long haul, they're better off having picked Cam Ward number 1 instead of Sam Darnold and the 4 picks they would have gotten reportedly from the Giants? To which Easton said, that's a broader conversation I'd be happy to have, but I should have been more specific here. I'm saying they were right about this roster not being a true contender and what would have been the first 2 cost-controlled years of a Sam Darnold contract. And I said, but the roster would be better with those picks. Plus, the Titans wouldn't have to trade away number 35, which they told Nick Suss, or his sources told Nick Suss, they took into consideration. I'll also say this. If the Titans had won 7 games this year after winning 3 games last year, I think a lot of people would feel very confident in the job that Mike Borgonzi's doing and the job that Chad Brinker's doing. Instead, they're absolutely on the hot seat next year, and you know that. Easton, by the way, says he hears me, but he disagrees, and then he was writing his rebuttal at A-Z Sports. And I've been looking, Easton, where is the report? Where is the rebuttal? I have been looking for it. I have been wanting it. I want to know what the actual rebuttal is, because it feels to me, when it comes to the decision of Cam over Sam and the realization that Sam Darnold, who right now is lighting up the NFL, granted he did throw 4 picks last week in a game, but the idea that this team was no good and that Sam Darnold would only win 7 games and it's not even worth discussing, and the amount of people out there that just shrug it off and are like, yeah, Sam Darnold's not that good. It'd be like Sam Darnold with the Jets here. Terry McCormick said that to me. He was like, oh, if it was on this team, it'd be like Sam with the Jets. I'm like, Sam with the Jets was 5 years ago. You don't think he's gotten a little bit better? So I decided, let's do what the numbers say. Let's go by the numbers. And the analytics. Ha, 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 ha. Analytics. Because again, I am convinced that if you had made the trade with the Giants, you could make your roster better with better players because of the picks that you got. Plus, I think Sam Darnold is much better than Cam Ward is right now. And I think Sam Darnold right now is better than Cam Ward will ever be. But here's what I feel like the Titans traded away. I feel like the option was sign Sam Darnold, trade with the Giants, and you'd have Sam Darnold with his PFF grade of 88.9, which is second in the NFL to Matthew Stafford. Abdul Carter at outside pass rush. Now, he hasn't let it up sack-wise, but he's got a PFF grade of 67.7. Jaden Higgins, the wide receiver who went with pick 34, you could have had him. I mean, he actually looks like a playmaker for the Texans. He's got a PFF grade of 65.7. Nick Emanwari at 35. Remember, you traded the 35th pick because you needed more picks. So you drafted Kevin Winston in the 3rd round over Emanwari, who was on the board there, who, by the way, you'll play this week, and Femi Oladejo. Emanwari's got a PFF grade of 74.9, plus you'd have the Giants' 1st-round pick and 2nd-round pick next year. By drafting Cam Ward, you've got Cam, whose PFF grade is 34 points lower than Sam Darnold's. Femi Oladejo, who's got a PFF grade of 48 and is hurt. So again, 20 points lower than Abdul Carter. And Kevin Winston at safety, who, again, not as good as Nick Emanwari, the safety that you could have picked with the 35th pick in the draft. So I go back to the numbers. So just keep that in mind. That's what you could have had if you had made that kind of move. Now, Adam from Portland says, Sam Darnold with the Titans, 2-4 and injured after the 20th sack. Cam with Seattle would be 6-4. JSN can catch, and the coach is promising this is a dumb comparison. Again, feelings. The feeling that Cam Ward's good and Sam Darnold sucks. Well, let's use a stat called EPA. It's what the analytic freaks love. EPA. Expected points added. Sam Darnold right now is 8th in the NFL in expected points added with 53 points on the season. What that statistic says is that Sam Darnold has added 53 points to the Seattle Seahawks this year. That means with a regular quarterback, think Geno Smith, Seattle would go from averaging 29 points a game to averaging about 24 points a game. Meanwhile, where does Cam Ward sit in terms of EPA? Dead last in the NFL at a minus 85, technically 84.96, but minus 85. That means that Ward cost the Titans 9 points a game. So the Titans quarterback cost them 9 points a game, and Seattle's quarterback gives them 5 points a game. That is a 14-point swing between those two teams. So let's go by the schedule and let's add 14 points to every game the Titans have played. And I know a lot of you don't want to do this because, again, your feelings are, this team's so bad, nobody could come in here and do any better. So let's add 14 points to every game. Let's go to the Denver game. They lost by 8. Add 14. That's a win. The Rams, they lost by 14. That's a tie. They would have lost the Indy game, which they lost by 21. They would have lost the first Houston game, which they lost by 26. They would have won the Arizona game, which they won by 1. They would have won that by 15. They would have lost to New England by 4. They would have lost to Indy by 10. They would have beaten the Chargers by 7. And they would have beaten the Texans by 11. So if we were to add 14 points a game to the Tennessee Titans, again, this is based on Sam Darnold's EPA of 5 points added per game for the Seattle Seahawks and Cam Ward's 9 points in which he takes away from the Titans every game. Your record today would be 4-4-1. And that's just at the quarterback position alone. Because a lot of people are like, well, this roster sucks. And so there's no way there's absolutely no way that this team could be any good and that anybody could come onto this roster. Right. But if you had made the trade, you'd have a better roster because you'd have more picks. So again, let's use Abdul Carter, who is, again, objectively better than Femi Oladejo, Jaden Higgins, and Nick Emanwari, as opposed to Kevin Winston and Femi Oladejo. So let's say you get Jaden Higgins' EPA so far with the Texans, which is 27 points this year. That's 2 extra points a game. Well, now you beat the Rams, and now you're 5-4. And that's against the toughest schedule in the league, according to the local media. So let me ask Chad Brinker, and let me ask Mike Borgonzi this question, and I mean this straight up. As their owner, Amy Adams Strunk, was up there today at the Titans steel beam celebration for the new stadium, and she had to get up there knowing, hey, I got to talk to all these people, but my team is 1-9. Would you rather be 5-4? Would you rather be 5-4 and playing Geno Smith at quarterback with Seattle because Seattle, a smart organization, moved off of Geno because instead of saying, oh, well, Sam Darnold's no good. I mean, what's the difference? Seattle said, Sam Darnold's pretty good. Let's go get Sam Darnold better than we were with Geno Smith. Would you rather be 5-4 playing Seattle with Geno Smith or 1-9 and being a 2-touchdown dog at home against Sam Darnold. Plus, if you had made the deal with the Giants right now, you'd currently hold the number 1 pick in next year's draft because the Giants currently have the number 2 pick. And that's with a quarterback that's played better than your quarterback. And you certainly would not be 1-9 if Sam Darnold was your quarterback. So again, think about this. You're Mike Borgonzi, and you take over the worst team, and you're 5-4 with a 28-year-old starting quarterback who you have under contract for the next 3 years. 2 first-round picks in this year's draft, including the number 1 overall pick, and 2 second-round picks in next year's draft. Are you sure you'd rather be 1-9? You'd also have a top edge rusher in the future in Abdul Carter, a 6'4" outside receiver who makes contested catches in Jaden Higgins, and a rookie safety who's 6'3" and has a PFF grade of 74.9, which would make him the 3rd highest graded defensive player on the Titans behind Jeffrey Simmons and Cedric Gray. But instead, everybody just shrugs it off and says, oh no, nobody would be good with this team. Again, based off of what? Based off of what? What are we basing off of the idea that nobody would be any good? What are we basing it off of? And I think we're basing it off the feeling that it makes us feel better to say, well, nobody be good with this team. Sam Darnold wouldn't be to good with this team. Tom Brady wouldn't be to good with this team. It makes us feel better. You think Tom Brady be 1-9? Well, Jared, this team sucks. I agree. But if you made the trade with the Giants, you'd have better players, on top of the fact that if you go from statistically and metrically the worst quarterback in the NFL in Cam Ward to one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Sam Darnold, you would absolutely have a better record. What's more important, having a great coach or having a great quarterback? You know the answer to that. But again, it makes us feel better to say, oh, well, Sam Darnold wouldn't be any good. Well, according to EPA, Sam Darnold is 8th in the NFL at 53 points this year for the Seahawks. Cam Ward is dead last at minus 85 points for the Titans. I just did math that got me to 5-4. I didn't use my feelings. I didn't use again, it's simple mathematics. And by the way, some of those games where you lost by more points, like when you lost to the Patriots, I actually think, hey, if it's a closer game down the stretch, it maybe turns into a who has the ball last, but I'm not even going to go there. Not going to let my feelings take me there. I'm just using the math. The math says the difference between Sam Darnold and Cam Ward is 14 points a game. Unless you want to just discredit EPA and say that it doesn't mean anything, the math says it's 14 points a game. If you get 14 extra points a game, your record is 4-4-1. Add in Jaden Higgins, who you could have drafted with the Giants' 34th overall pick, which you didn't want. His 2 extra points a game puts you over the top against the Rams, and now you're 5-4. And I'd really like a rebuttal to the nerdy numbers that I just threw out there that show you how different having a good quarterback who adds 53 points to your team should be over one who is costing you 85 points. And again, have the conversation with Brian Callahan. Say, hey, would you rather be 5-4 or would you rather be fired? I think he'd take 5-4. So I understand the thinking when people say it's not fair to write off Cam Ward. I understand that he should get better. He probably will. I understand thinking Sam Darnold won't win the Super Bowl. The truth is, most quarterbacks don't win the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson hasn't won the Super Bowl. Josh Allen hasn't won the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow hasn't won the Super Bowl. Drake May hasn't won the Super Bowl. Jaden Daniels hasn't won the Super Bowl. But what I don't understand is the logic that Sam Darnold plus the picks wouldn't be better in the long run than Cam Ward. And that's what drives me up a wall. If you don't believe that, it's either you're convinced Cam will absolutely be a franchise quarterback, which I don't see any evidence towards, but fine, go ahead and believe it. Or it's because you want to believe it. It makes you feel better and instead of saying the only thing that you have hope when it comes to this team, instead of saying the only thing you have hope is that Cam Ward becomes the guy, it leaves you to say, he might not be that good and the guys running the team might be stupid. And I know you don't want to believe that. And that's the first thing. So I do think it's funny when it comes to everybody saying, oh, well, there's no doubt. There's no way that Sam Darnold will be any good here. And I'm telling you, Mike Borgonzi thinks that too. I'm just going to tell you, the numbers say you'd be 5-4 if you had gone ahead and done that. All right, let's talk Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. We got a lot to get to today, and I do want to get to your reaction on this topic off the jump. So we'll get to your reaction in just a second. Plus, I got a bitch about what Barry Trotz said yesterday. Holy shit. And then, of course, I do want to talk about the Bills-Texans game. We'll get into that coming up as well. We got a lot of stuff to get to, and my new favorite segment here on the program. But first, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Hiller! They've been in business since 1990. They are family-owned and operated with 100% satisfaction. Of happy you'll be or the service is free. If a customer is not pleased with the work performed, Hiller will make it right. You can learn more by going online at happyhiller.com. Professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians who come in your home and leave it better and clean than they found it. Care is their core value, and they believe that when they care about others, everybody wins. Hiller will take care of the customer on every job, every time. Again, I know this because I use Hiller in my home. I've been using Hiller in my home for years. Let Hiller take care of your home. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Proud supporters of the National Predators, the Vanderbilt Commodores, and the Tennessee Volunteers. That's Hiller. Call the Happy Face Truck today. Okay, I do want to get to some of your reaction here on the Cam versus Sam debate. So let's get into some of the reaction. And I'll say, one person says they wouldn't even win 7 games with Sam Darnold. Again, it's Sam Darnold plus Abdul Carter plus Jaden Higgins plus Nicky Manwari minus Femi Aladejo and Kevin Winston. And if you want to go a step further, because somebody said, I just heard PK and TD on a podcast together, and they said Sam Darnold wouldn't have wanted to come here anyways. First of all, I have sourcing that told me at the time that Sam Darnold did want to be on the Tennessee Titans, or at least had interest in joining the Tennessee Titans. The truth is, Sam Darnold really wouldn't have had a say, because I would have traded with Minnesota in order to get Sam Darnold's rights, and I would have paid more for Sam Darnold than Seattle did. I would have paid Sam Darnold a 4-year, $160 million contract. That's $40 million a year. I would have guaranteed the first 2 years and would have essentially guaranteed the third. So it would have technically been $80 million guaranteed at signing. It really would have been $120 million guaranteed, because the way they do some of these deals in the league are the 3rd year guarantees on the 5th day of the 2nd league year. And that's what I would have done. So as long as Sam Darnold wasn't an unmitigated disaster, he'd be the quarterback for 3 years and $120 million. And I got no problem with that. Zero. And then the 4th year, like a lot of these contracts in the NFL, would have just been an option year. But I would have traded with Minnesota in order to get the quarterback that I wanted. And what I think the ultimate trade would have been, the compensation for Darnold, it would have been the Titans' 4th round pick at the top of the 4th round, the one they used on Chimere Dike. That would have been the pick that goes to Minnesota in exchange for Darnold, because the way Minnesota views it is, okay, if we let Sam Darnold leave, we get a 3rd rounder in next year's draft, so we might as well get a 4th rounder in this year's draft at the top of the 4th round, as opposed to letting Darnold leave for nothing. That's how the franchise tag works. You trade me his rights. I look at Sam and I say, hey, 4 years, 160, 80 guaranteed, or you can play on the franchise tag for $40 million. That's what I would have done. One person says, you're wrong about this. Cam Ward would have had a winning record with Seattle. Based off of what? Again, I'm waiting for Easton Freeze to give me his breakdown, his rebuttal as to why the team is in a better position with Cam Ward than they are with Darnold and the Giant picks. But when you say something like, oh, well, I mean, Seattle, they're so good. We did this last year with Cam Ward. Excuse me, Sam Darnold. We did this last year with Sam Darnold. You told me I had to draft Cam Ward and that Sam Darnold was no good because Sam Darnold was only a creation of Kevin O'Connell, this great coach in Minnesota, Justin Jefferson, the number 1 receiver in the NFL, Jordan Addison, an above-average number 2 receiver, TJ Hawkinson at tight end, Brian Flores' defense. Well, why can't they win a game in Minnesota without him? Seattle didn't make the playoffs last year. And Seattle's one of the best teams, if not the best team, in the entire NFL. And you don't think Sam deserves any credit for that? Minnesota was one of the best teams in the league last year. They won 14 games. They can't win a game right now. The quarterback's rewiring his brain, and his individual QB coach is getting into it with Chris Carter, the wide receiver, and it's a nightmare. So you keep doing this stuff where you're like, oh, well, Darnold's no good. And Cam would be much better. We need to highlight Seattle. I mean, look at that Seattle roster. You mean the roster they had last year that didn't get them into the playoffs? Smith and Jigba was on the team last year. In fact, they had DK Metcalf on that team too. So Sam Darnold shows up, throws the ball to Smith and Jigba every play because he knows in the NFL, I'm getting the ball to the playmaker. I ain't trying to throw the ball to Mason Kinsey, and he gets no credit for it. Unbelievable. Daniel says the front office was correct in determining that it would not have been worth it to pay Darnold $30 million to win 7 games. Again, what are you basing the 7 games off of? That's supposedly when J-Rob got fired and Rand Carthon came in, you people got very excited about the fact that analytics. We're going to be an analytic team now, Jared. With Vrabel and Robinson, we were living in the Stone Age, and now we've got analytics. Well, according to EPA, if you took Sam Darnold's EPA and you took Cam Ward's, you get rid of the 85 points Cam Ward's cost you this year, and you add the 50 points that Sam Darnold, 53 or whatever it is, that Sam Darnold has given Seattle, you're going to win right now 4 games. You'd be 4-4-1. Over the course of the year, that projects to 9-8, 8-9, 9-7-1. Add the Jaden Higgins pick in there. Now you're at 5-4. And you're telling me you're better than that? You're telling me that that's no good? You mean like the 9-7 that got you to the AFC Championship game under the great Mike Vrabel? That was no good? When is it good? Well, he wouldn't win 7 games here. Well, right now he'd be 5-4 with still the back half of the schedule to play. So I have a hard time with that. One person says, stats don't have context, relegating them useless and moronic to make arguments. Okay, tall Texan, give me the stats that do matter. Give me the stats that matter that say that you were right, they were right, I was wrong, you're better off with Sam Darnold or Cam Ward over Sam Darnold. One person says 1-9, better than 4-4-1. Yeah, I think that's a question you should ask Mike Borgonzi. Do you enjoy being 1-9 more than you would enjoy being 4-4-1 or 5-4 if you added in Jaden Higgins? Well, we're not good because we're not. And by the way, if you don't think a veteran quarterback who's good makes this much of a difference, look at the effing Colts. So that's the first thing. I do want to touch on the Thursday night football game before I get to the Barry Trotz stuff. Just quickly, I did watch Thursday night football. That is a good Thursday night football game. That should be the matchup that we get week in, week out on Thursday night football. Bills-Texans. It is not a game in which you have to burn a premium great matchup on. It's not like burning a great Dallas Cowboy game. It's not like burning up Chiefs-Bills or burning up Ravens Bills or Ravens Chiefs or anything like that. It's Bills Texans. It's a game that if it were on a Sunday, it probably would be a noon kick on CBS with Ian Eagle and JJ Watt calling the game. Instead, it was national TV. Thank you very much. But I want to talk about the actual game because Houston's defense is good. And Davis Mills has game managed his way to 3-0. He right now is Trent Dilfering that football team. And they do expect to get CJ Stroud back soon. But a lot of people last night wanted to talk about how good the defense was for the Houston Texans, which it was. But my focus was actually on Buffalo and how I feel like Buffalo's coaching staff last night coached them out of the game by not respecting Houston's defense and the kind of game they were going to have to play and the kind of game that they were going to have to win. Houston has the top defense in the NFL. And they sacked Josh Allen 8 times last night. Well, if you're the Bills and they've sacked him 5 times and they've picked him off, and at some point, don't you realize, hey, if we're going to walk out of here, this is going to be an ugly struggle. This is not going to be one of those games where Josh just goes out there, throws it up and down the yard, and we've got the best quarterback and we're going to win. And with 10-14 to go in the game, down by 7, Buffalo decided to go for it on 4th and 1 from the Houston 23. And I'm sure the analytics say go for it because they always do say go for it. But I thought to myself watching the game last night, 10-14 to go versus Trent Dilfer, and you need 2 scores to win because it's a 7-point game. So at some point, you're going to need a touchdown to tie, and then you're going to need another touchdown or a field goal to win. Whether that comes in overtime, whatever, you need 2 scores. And with 10-14 to go, there's probably 3 more possessions. Again, you're not playing Patrick Mahomes on the other side. You're playing Davis Mills. And at that point, when they go for it on 4th down, I'm thinking, you've got 3 more possessions, maybe 2. But you need 2 scores anyway. So instead of taking the points, they take the ball out of the MVP's hands and they run into the best defensive line in football. And I just thought that was bad coaching last night. If there's 3 minutes left and you needed a touchdown, fine, go for it. But there was 10 minutes left in the game. And the next drive, they did kick a field goal. Now, that was because it was 4th and 10. So Buffalo took the points and realized, well, we got to play it drive by drive. And so no, you got to play it in the context of the game. And when you're playing that good of a defense and they have shown you, hey, we are here to play. Now you have to realize the kind of game that you have to win. It has to be a grinded out field goal, put the ball in Josh's hands, but let's not. And they didn't do that. If they had kicked a field goal, then they kicked the second field goal. Now it's a 1-point game. Now at the end of the game, when Josh Allen gets the ball, it's not Josh has to drop back and we have to send 5 guys out in the pattern. And here come Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter and Danico Autry and Tim Settle. And it's not that. It's, hey, Josh needs about 38 yards to go to set up a game-winning field goal. And that's a different ball game, and you know that. Just bad coaching. And I think it's the arrogance of some of these teams that when they face great defenses, they say, well, we have the best quarterback, so we're going to play our game. Not, let's do what gives us the best chance to win. I know Belichick has lost his mind, and it was mostly Brady and not Bill, but Belichick was really good that when it called for them to minimize Brady in order to win a game, because it may not have been best for Brady, but what was best for the Patriots that week, that's how Bill called the game plan. I remember when the Titans played Jacksonville, when they had that great defense and Blake Bortles at quarterback, and I just kept saying, run, 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 punt. Run, 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 punt. Run, 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 punt. Great defense. Put the ball in Blake's hands. Blake Bortles will screw it up. And that's what happened. And that's why the Titans always won those games. Pittsburgh with Ben Roethlisberger was like, we're going to throw the ball. And I'm like, oh, boy. Oh, boy. Well, good luck. And then they get their asses kicked because that defense was so good. Buffalo's offensive coaching staff, and this is McDermott's fault, not Joe Brady, because McDermott's the one overseeing the game. Buffalo's coaching staff did not take into account that they were going to have to play an ugly game against a great defensive team. Can't have that. Okay, now we got to get to the Barry Trotz stuff. Because yesterday, I did listen to my old station for the interview that I used to do where Barry Trotz went on 1025, and it absolutely cost me any faith that I had in Barry Trotz ever. This is what Barry Trotz, again, the Predators last year, they went into the playoffs 2 years ago in 2024, and people did not expect them to make the playoffs, but they did. Some of the younger players played a little bit better, and they were right there with Vancouver. They just couldn't score on the power play in the playoffs, and they were right there. So Barry Trotz goes out with all this cap space, and he signs Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shea, and Steven Stamkos. And there is a thought that, hey, these guys are older, but they're battle-tested. They were good last year. This team will be good this year. They were not. Mostly when you think in the NHL, when you think you've got a team that's good and they're not good, the coach is the first one to pay for it. Because even though it may not be his fault, the idea is I can't fire the players, so I'll fire the coach. Barry Trotz did not fire the coach last year. And I asked him every week when he'd come on the program, you going to fire the coach? You going to fire the coach? You going to fire the coach? So then Barry Trotz decides at the end of the year to bring the coach back. And I told Barry Trotz on the program, I'm like, you're too loyal to the coach. That's why you're going to keep him, because you're a former coach and you're too loyal to the coach. But at least there was some kind of argument to be made. You could say, hey, we started off 0-5. We're going to revamp training camp. We're going to change our defense. We're going to reset. Everybody now knows the Brunette system. So when we come out here next year, we are going to be a different team. Now, I didn't believe that, but I at least said, hey, there's a possibility that that could be true. The problem is they're the exact same team they were last year. They can't score. They can't play defense. The goalie's not that good. And every move Trotz keeps making keeps blowing up in his face. And then I listened to the interview yesterday. It is obvious that Andrew Brunette is not going to get this group to play better. It's obvious. He's had a year and a half to get it figured out, and he hasn't done it. And if there was ever a time to fire the coach, your last game was on Sunday against the Penguins. You got your asses kicked. You get on the plane. You fly home. You get home. You fire the coach. You have a week off before you play Colorado on Saturday. That's when you fire the coach. But not Barry Trotz. This was Barry Trotz on my old show yesterday when asked, why are you not firing the coach? Take a look.
Why have you decided not to make a coaching change after another dismal start to the season?
Well, very simply, a little bit of I believe our coaches have done a really good job. A record may not show it, but they are coaching their butts off. And, it's the easy thing to, as I said in the past, it's the easy thing to do. This is a shared responsibility with the players, myself, and the coaching staff. So I put a little bit more on the it's a shared, like you say, a shared responsibility. So from a player standpoint, we need more from we went out and got some players the last couple of years to add a little bit of offense, and they've come up a little bit dry in the front end. We've restructured our defense, got a lot younger on the back end. We've got 5 guys that are basically 25 years and younger, so there's not a lot of experience there, but at the same time, we feel that there's a lot of growth for them. So our plan hasn't changed, and the coaches and the management and even the players have been part of the plan, that we are in a little bit of a blend mode.
Okay. Any faith I had in Barry Trotz, I absolutely lost yesterday. I think he is completely and utterly clueless. And if I was Bill Haslam and I heard that interview, I'd be planning to change the general manager sooner rather than later. And here's why. I understand the philosophy of spending money last year, hoping to get a good team on the ice at the NHL level, while all the young players that you've drafted over the years, from Tanner Mullendijk to Matthew Wood to Brady Martin to all those guys, develop. Joakim Kimmel, just send them all down there and let them all develop in the minor leagues and juniors and everything else, and let's try to win at the NHL level. So let's sign Stamkos, Marchessault, Brady Shea. I understand that philosophy. The goal last season was not to be bad, but it did happen. And in the NHL, when you're bad and you don't expect to be bad, you change the coach. That's just what you do. Then after you change the coach, you see if a new coach can do better with the same players. And if not, then it is clearly the player's fault and you need to blow up the team. But not with Barry Trotz, because Barry Trotz says they're coaching their butts off. They're not winning any games, but they're coaching their butts off. And firing the coach, that's the easy thing to do, Barry Trotz says. That's not the easy thing to do. That's the only thing that makes sense to do. And let's use the real world example when talking about the easy thing to do. Let's use the real world example of a non-fatal gunshot wound. The easy thing to do after suffering a non-fatal gunshot wound would be to go to the hospital and let the doctors operate and treat the gunshot wound. It's also the right thing to do, because the alternative is you removing the bullet yourself, sanitizing the wound, and then sewing it up. That's the hard thing to do. It's also the stupid thing to do. And this is pro sports. And what Barry Trotz, and I don't think he understands this, because I am convinced he does not have a clue. I don't think he realizes when you tell the fans, hey, our coaching staff is coaching their butts off. These players are playing their butts off. We're just not winning any games. And then you're asked, are you going to do something about it? And you say no, that you're basically saying, hey, fans, go buy tickets, pay full price, but I'm not going to change anything to put a winning product on the ice for you to watch, because that would be the easy thing to do, and I have too much pride. That's what this is about. Barry Trotz has too much pride. It was admirable to an extent that Trotz, a former coach, wanted to give his pupil a second chance. But he's had the second chance, and they are 31st in the NHL. You don't get a third chance in this league. And what this all does, again, his stubbornness, his pride, his lack of self-awareness, coupled with the UC Saros contract and the Yaroslav Askarov trade, both of which have absolutely and predictably blown up in his face, it paints the picture of a stubborn guy who doesn't know what he's doing. Barry Trotz is just flying by the seat of his pants. He extended Alexander Carrier before last year, and then midway through the year gave him to Montreal for a bag of peanuts. And now he's trying to tell you that he believes in the bag of peanuts. He had the 5th pick in the draft, and he picked a guy who plays the hardest, because that's what every coach wants. I want a guy who plays the hardest. Not the guy who's most skilled, not the best goal scorer, not the best talent. No, he picked the guy who plays the hardest. That interview for me yesterday was the final straw when it comes to Barry Trotz. I have lost all confidence in Barry Trotz to be a general manager. And I've lost all confidence in him, because it feels like he's living on a remote island where common sense and the way things are done in the NHL just don't seem to matter or exist. I like Barry Trotz. He is a good man, and he was a good coach for the Nashville Predators. And I was glad when he won the Stanley Cup in Washington because I felt like he deserved it. He's been very good to me, and I've had to have many uncomfortable conversations with Barry Trotz over the last couple of years. But I just don't think this guy has a fucking clue. I remember talking to Trotz last year before we had him on the day of the trade deadline. You know, when the Predators traded away Luke Shin only for Pittsburgh to turn around and trade him away for more 10 hours later. And I told Trotz, I said, the fans think you don't have a clue. And he was like, why? And I think that why probably tells me all I need to know. I'd move on from Trotz. Again, if Barry Trotz had done what every other general manager in the NHL would have done, which is about November 1st, realized, hey, I gave Andrew Burnett a second chance. We had a revamped training camp. We had optimism coming in here. It's not working. Sorry, he's fired. Peter DeBoer's in. I wouldn't be on here railing about the fact that I don't think Barry Trotz knows what he's doing. But the fact that he can't do what every other team in the league would do tells me that if you can't do this, then I need to find somebody who can. I'd move on from Trotz, and I do what I have been begging this organization to do forever, which is to move off of the Predator way in which David Poyles and the feelings override results. Again, this is an organization who felt like they could still compete in 2020 and fired Peter Laviolette less than half a year removed from a 100-point season and a second consecutive Central Division title, and no matter how many games they lose, will not fire Andrew Burnett because of the feelings. The feeling at the time was Peter is holding this team back. And the feeling is Andrew Burnett is coaching his butt off. One person says, why don't you call Barry incompetent like you do Rand? Did I not just say he doesn't have a clue? Is that not the same thing? George says, will Jared hold a vote of no confidence for Barry? I don't need to hold a vote of no confidence. I have no confidence. I have no confidence. Adam Vingan, who texted me this earlier, said, don't forget when Jared said that Barry Trotz deserved until 2028 before we could judge him. And I said to Adam Vingan, I said, when it comes to Barry Trotz, that was with the understanding that Barry Trotz would fire the coach and try somebody new. Again, I can't make an assumption as to what Barry Trotz is going to do with the coach or not do with the coach. This would be like saying, well, you said that so-and-so was a good guy. Yeah, I didn't know that he had 5 assault charges before, but now that I know, it changes my opinion. My opinion on Barry Trotz was, hey, Barry Trotz, the first year they overachieved, the second year they underachieved. He's loyal, so he's going to give his guy a second shot, and he's going to do what all the teams in the league do, which is we give you the second shot, we don't see the results we like right away, we fire the coach, we bring somebody new in here. That is not what he did. That was, we're going to give him a second shot, he comes in here, he's got a second shot, and now he's still the coach. And I don't know how anybody in that organization can look at Barry Trotz and say, yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. I mean, I am sorry, but he does not know what he's doing. And again, and I know he didn't mean it this way, and I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but when Barry Trotz says the coaches are coaching their butts off, we all share in this, the players, me, the coach, and basically says, I'm not going to change anything. He's saying, fuck you, fans. And I know he's not saying it. I know he doesn't mean that. Like, he's not sitting there every day getting ready for work saying, fuck the fans. But that's what it feels like. Hey, you guys pay full price for tickets. You have to pay $19 a month to watch this Fakakta channel that the team's on. And so you have to go out of your way to watch the games. You have to go out of your way to go to the games. You have to go out of your way to support the team. And the team stinks, and I'm not going to do anything about it. That is, again, roughly translated. And I know this isn't what he's saying, but it's probably what the fans are feeling. Fuck you, fans. That's what it feels like. So, again, you can want me to say he's incompetent because I said Rand was incompetent. I mean, this is incompetence. This is a guy who doesn't know how it works in the NHL. And he's trying to cross his arms and basically say, no. All the other general managers who fire the coach, that's the easy thing to do. No, it's the only thing anybody else would do, Barry. So I heard the interview yesterday. Again, I thought they did an okay job interviewing him. I would have been a little bit tougher. I would have been, I would have said to Barry, like, so wait a minute, you mean to tell me you're not going to change anything? So we're in the middle of year 2 of this, and we're not changing anything. And he would have gone on one of these long-winded answers about, we got to get the right guys in here, and we're changing our way we practice. But as far as the makeup of the team, the core of the team, the coaching staff, you're not changing any of that. And then I would have asked, so what is the message to the fans when you're basically saying, yeah, we're 31st and we're not changing anything? And that's where I think Trotz has lost all touch of reality. And that's where, again, I like Sean Henry. I think Sean Henry needs to step in here and say, like, hey, man, either he goes or you go. Like, somebody's got to step in here on Trotz because he's fucking lost it, if he ever had it. Which I did not want to hire Barry Trotz when they hired him. Now, I liked Barry Trotz after the first year. Thought he did a good job. I did not have a super objection to Trotz because I just wanted David Poile out of there. But I wanted them to go get somebody from another organization that had worked in personnel. Like the Mike Borgonzi of hockey. Go get that guy. Or go get a general manager that had been somewhere else. Not somebody who's sucking from the Poile teat. And what you get is you get the Poile bullshit. Where when everybody in the world thinks you need to do something, you do the opposite. And that's where they are with him. Okay. Let's get to, again, our new segment that we have on this program here on Stillman & Company.
The Cam Ward excuse of the day.
Okay, time now for the Cam Ward excuse of the day. And this goes back to my old colleagues once again. This is Joe Rexrode this morning on the Robbie and Rexrode program when talking about the analytics and the underlying metrics and all the numbers that point to one reality right now for Cam Ward in his rookie season, which is he's not very good. Here was Joe Rexrode this morning making excuses for Cam Ward.
Cam Ward, I don't know what he's going to be. But if you are someone who is doing this by only box score scouting, and I'm talking all the underlying numbers too, just don't comment. Like it's pointless. All those numbers, I value them. They're good. They're good numbers to use, and especially they're good. I mean, just to have a context on everything that's happening with a team, with a league, with whatever. But like, they don't come close in my mind to watching someone play after play, week after week. Yeah. I don't really care.
Okay. So Joe Rexrode is saying, if you just look at the numbers surrounding Cam Ward, you cannot properly evaluate him. Now, let me state for the record. Do you think I watch the games? What the hell else do you think I'm doing on a Sunday afternoon? Of course I'm watching the games. So I watch the Titans more than most people. And I don't know if Joe's talking about me or if Joe's talking about people that just get on Twitter and say, look at Cam Ward's stats, he sucks. But the truth is, in my opinion, the play of which I'm watching on television and the stats and metrics themselves all paint a similar picture. And that picture is that Cam Ward is not good. And here are Cam Ward's metrics and numbers. This is without even taking your traditional stats, which again, all say that he stink. But PFF grade, 37 of 41 qualifying quarterbacks. PFF passing grade, 38th of 41 qualifying quarterbacks. Pro Football Focus, big time throw percentage, 26th of 41 qualifying quarterbacks. Adjusted completion percentage. So this is where they take the completion percentage. When you guys say things like, well, if Chig didn't drop that pass, this is where they take this into account. Adjusted completion percentage, 40th of 41 qualifying quarterbacks. And pressure to sack percentage, 41st of 41 qualifying quarterbacks. The numbers say Cam Ward sucks. The tape says Cam Ward sucks. Are there some throws that Cam Ward's made that make you go, wow, look at that bomb down the field to Chig? Of course. But you know who else had throws like that? Will Levis. Remember his touchdown to Nick Westbrook-Akine in the Falcons game? He couldn't do that if he tried 100 times to throw that same pass to NWI. So when you're now saying, well, all the metrics and all the stats and it doesn't mean anything, it's not painting a picture of how Cam. You think the games are painting a better picture for Cam? And I just don't think that, which makes that the
Cam Ward excuse of the day.
our daily Cam Ward excuse of the day. Okay, it's time now to get the six-pack picks. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Did I have a bad week last week? 1-5. And I took a bunch of outright winners. I took Kansas City to win outright. I took Detroit to win Sunday Night Football at Philadelphia. Of course, the Titans screwed me on the spread. Alabama lost. I mean, it was a bad week for your boy. And so right now for the season, 31-40, if we're going to make this a competitive season, we've been exactly 500 each of the last 2 years. If I'm going to make this a competitive season, I need to get some of these games right. I mean, or else it's going to be a lean Hanukkah in the Stillman household this year. So with that, let's start where we always like to start with college football. And we'll go Kentucky at Vanderbilt tomorrow, 2:30 ESPN. Vanderbilt, 8.5-point favorite. It feels like when I picked against Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt won. When I picked Vandy to win, they would win. Excuse me, they would lose. Vandy minus 8.5, I'll take Kentucky. Because I think Kentucky's going to win the game. I think that when it comes to all the Vanderbilt fans out there that are sitting there and they're saying, oh, Jared, we feel like we're going to get screwed by the committee. I think this is all going to work itself out. And I think you're going to lose to Kentucky at home on Saturday. It's going to be a debilitating loss. And any talk of the playoff or Tennessee being a play-in for the playoff or whatever have you, it's not going to matter. You're going to lose, and it is what it is. I'll go Kentucky to win outright, but I'll definitely take Kentucky plus the 8.5. Tennessee at Florida, 6:30 ABC. Tennessee is a 4.5-point favorite. I'll take the Gators. And I'll take the Gators because at night, Josh Heupel seems to never, ever play well. And while Florida is an unmitigated shit show, I just think that these rivalry games bring out the best and worst in everybody. I'll take Florida. I think they'll win outright, and they'll cover the 4.5-point spread. Give me the Gators in the swamp against the Vols. Okay, NFL. I can't believe this game is at noon on CBS. Indianapolis at Kansas City. Kansas City is a 3.5-point favorite. Now, it is getting the Tony Romo, Jim Nantz treatment, and most of the country is getting this game. Not here, but most of the country is getting this game. I picked Kansas City last week, and I got burned. I'm going to pick Kansas City again this week. I just don't think they're going to die. I don't think it's as simple as Kansas City's going to go in with Mahomes healthy, and they're going to finish 7-10. So they're going to have to win some of these games. Indy, a dome team going on the road to Kansas City. I'll take Kansas City to cover the 3.5. Okay, America's game of the week. The late game, Philadelphia at Dallas. Am I the only one that feels a little Philly-Dallas out? Like that we've watched Philly and Dallas play each other about 1 million times? Philly at Dallas, 325 on Fox. Philly, 3.5-point favorite. This is tricky because Dallas puts up a bunch of points, but I just don't expect Dallas to play well 2 weeks in a row. I'll take the Eagles. Okay, Sunday Night Football. Tampa Bay at the Rams, 7:20 NBC. Tampa Bay's played about 9 big games, and I feel like they've lost all of them. And I think they'll lose this one. When I looked at Tampa Bay and the Rams on Sunday Night Football, I said 8.5. And when I saw the spread came in at 7, I'm like, I'll take the Rams. I think this game will be competitive. It'll be fun. I could see the Rams not being able to cover while winning. I'll take the Rams. I think the Rams will win. -7. Go ahead and lay the points. I'll take the Rams. And finally, the game of the week. Excuse me on that one. False start on me. Noon, Fox. Seattle at Tennessee. Seattle is -13.5. And give me the Seahawks. Give me the Sam Chies. I think Sam Darnold will come in here, light up the Titans. I think last week left a bad taste in their mouth. I think the Titans still stink. They have no wide receivers. Seattle's one of the better teams in the league. I think this will be like the other games. It'll be close at halftime. Seattle will blow them out in the second half. Give me Seattle 41, Tennessee 10. And that will do it for us. We will have a post-game show on Sunday. Is the post-game show going to be right after the game is over like normal or not? I don't know. It depends on if I go to the game on Sunday or not. Good luck, everybody out there. Have a great weekend. That's it for us, Stillman and Company. We'll see everybody again post-game live on Sunday.